Welcome to the show. I'm so excited that you are here with us today, Heidi. Can you go ahead and introduce yourself to our listeners real quick?
Sure, great. Thanks so much too, Jess, for having me. I'm thrilled to be here. I love the work that you do and just this whole optimistic perspective on life. So I'm an optimist. That's part of the reason I'm here. And yeah, a little bit about me. So I've got my own marketing consulting business, Transformation Insights LLC. And I really set that up coming off of a number of years in corporate, working for Fortune 100 to medium-sized SaaS. I've been on the board helping startups and really getting them off and running. And so I've had this wide career in executive roles, leading marketing teams, leading the function, and just really wanted to step out on my own and be able to help a number of companies get going. I've also helped individuals. It's mostly around marketing strategy, translating that into specific tactical marketing plans that get results. So everything from positioning, messaging, go-to-market strategy, building out the pipeline and leads, and then evaluating results, and then making any changes based on that. And there's definitely a need for it because I think we're all bombarded with so many different ways to market and so many tools and resources. And a lot of times companies are just spread so thin that they really need to take a step back. So they end up saving a ton of money, but more importantly, getting the results and getting the clients that they want. And so I find that work really rewarding and really excited about it.
Yeah, I love that. When you and I first talked a couple weeks ago, I was really excited because I came from the marketing and advertising background, right? Like that
Yeah,
was my world. And
right.
whereas it felt misaligned to me and led me to burnout, right? So
Yeah.
I've, kind of arm's length it since then. But what I love is you come from that same space and you being the optimist that you are and finding alignment in that space. You're like, how do I bring this to more people? How do I help other companies? Because this is a solution we need. Like this is something we need in the world.
Yeah, no, and I love that we have that in common because there's, like you said, there's so many different perspectives. And I get it because a lot of companies that I work with, they've been just bombarded with so many different options. And it's a lot of times it's one specific area. Like they'll get the person that does SEO or the person that does websites, or this one just does leads. And really what they need though is that more comprehensive plan and strategy. Who's their ideal customer profile? What's the persona, what are the target roles they're even trying to reach, and then figuring out the go-to-market strategy from there. And that's one of the reasons why these individual solutions, those can come later, and those are really critical, and I'll partner up with those types of solution providers, but it's almost too much too soon. I like to call it like the squirrel mentality. You picture this like flying squirrel, like squirrel, it's just this shiny object syndrome. So
Well,
yeah.
it is interesting because that is the world we live in, even outside of marketing, right? Everyone
Right,
has
right.
the one solution, the
Mhm.
magic bullet, the unicorn that's going to solve all
Yeah.
of your problems. And that's kind of how marketing is run today. We're supposed to niche ourselves and present ourselves in a certain way. But what I love that you just said, and what I know from the happiness research perspective,
Hmm.
is that there is no one size fits all. There is no one solution. Every person is different and brings different strengths to the table, but also every company and organization is completely different. And so there is no
Yeah.
one size fits all marketing solution for them. And yet, it is also super important for these companies and organizations to be able to effectively market themselves so that they can reach the people that they can ultimately serve.
So well said. You're right. I mean, it's more important than ever to reach, and I think part of why it's gotten so confused is because and so bombarded is because there are so many channels. But that's okay. It's a matter of picking what's that right channel for you, for your company to be able to reach out. And then having that steady, just show up with a steady cadence. It's better to be consistent, repeatable, and then companies get to know you and what you're about rather than just these quick hits and then disappear. So, it's like you said with happiness, it's similar. Rather than chasing like these big highs, it's more just consistent, the autonomy, understanding your market, talking to
Yes.
prospective customers, and then taking that feedback on board to adjust the plans and strategy. So yeah,
Yeah.
I fully agree.
I love that. And you even took what I said and put it even more in my language, which I love. It is not about chasing the highs and getting those short-term results. This is what I work with companies on, right?
Mm-hmm.
Short-term results are the squirrel. You're going to get
Yeah.
that hit and then it's going to go away.
Yeah.
Good marketing, good leadership in our own lives, sustainable happiness comes from creating those systems and those processes and the environment, right? The strategy that allows you to continue to show up in these ways and deliver in these ways over time. So it isn't the dopamine hits. It isn't the flash marketing campaign that, it gets you a ton of leads, but they're not the right leads. They're not, what are you going to do with the leads? All of those questions too.
Yeah. The vanity metrics, that's just like very top of funnel. It's a leading indicator and still interesting, but it's really like what's resonating, what really matters. And, how are you going to reach that type of customer? And it's different for every market and, type of buyer. And then recognizing, buying teams and different needs within those buying teams and how they want to consume information, learn about your company. And, sales has changed so much too, because now buyers are that much more informed. They don't want a salesperson always right there. They want to get educated. By the time they actually meet with a salesperson, they've done 80% now of that research already. So that puts even more emphasis on having a good marketing strategy and a good foundation, so that when that buyer does reach your salesperson, they can just cut right to it and have a more informed, tailored discussion of how the solution meets that particular company's needs. And they don't have to start with the basics of, educating on the solution, the differentiation, but it's a lot more tailored, which is good for everybody.
Right. Well, and by the time they get there, by the time you get to that final interaction for the sale, they already know you and you already know them, right? Because you've built up this whole conversation and interaction platform, right? So whether or not you are one-on-one talking to them previously, you've put out content, you've interacted with them multiple times before you get to there. So you don't have to do the basics.
Yeah, completely.
They know who you are. And they probably already know whether or not they want to work with you or buy your thing.
Yeah, exactly. And they've formed an opinion, so you can do what you want on branding, but they're going to form their own opinion. And that's why the consistency across multiple channels is so important, to have sort of that same messaging, whether it's at an event, whether it's digital, whether it's social media, just being able to show up in the same way, and have that approach.
So I'm gonna go off script for a second. And I'm going to ask you what your why is. Why do you do this work? Why does it light you up so much? Because I can tell it does. This excites you. You love this world. So
yeah, no, and I love it. And by the way, I'm a huge fan of Simon Sinek on the Find Your Why. Yes. And I often refer that to clients, and especially when I'm doing coaching, because I think it is so important to understand, for each of us, our own why. So for me, if we unpack it, like marketing, the why on that is, I just love connecting, people, companies with great solutions. So it's like that simple, just, that matching, right? Just connecting, solving problems, pairing the great solutions, telling that story to get the message across. So even if it's something really messy and convoluted, I actually love like just distilling that down, put it into a message that can be heard, positioned, and then figure out how to get the message out there. So that's part of it. So that's the marketing side. And then for, why am I doing this? And why did I decide to set up my own business? I mean, first, I love working with multiple clients in that way. And so it's all about helping create new opportunities. And this gets into a lot of the work that you do about thinking about future vision. And so if you think about the type of world we're in, it's never been easier to be that entrepreneur or to add value, in your own way, right? Work with multiple companies. And so really, if you look at the convergence of technology, approach and attitude towards work, collaboration, partnerships, and community has never been stronger. So there's just all of these different drivers coming together to make it even more feasible than ever. And then the other one that's coming is, if you look at the change that's happening, companies having these, almost like a boom and bust, right? There's major hiring changes, M&A, but then there's layoffs, and there's just these dramatic changes. And it's because the pace of technology is changing. It's positive in terms of innovation, but it's so disruptive in terms of work. So it's created a new opportunity, for fractional work. So being able to bring someone in, what used to be considered a contractor role, now people are coming in as fractional CMO, fractional CFO, even fractional CEOs. So it's this idea that to be able to come in, add value first in a specific area, and then do that with multiple companies. So at the end of the day, my why is about creating opportunities and bringing the right solutions to the right people and companies to solve problems.
I love that. And I love it because my relationship in that world was very different. But I love that if I had been able to keep that front of mind, that I am bringing together people and solutions. And that was what I woke up to do every day. Leaving aside that not all solutions need to go to all people. And that's where marketing is a little troublesome. It's the growth mindset, right? Like you always have to grow, sell. Yeah. But I love how simply you distilled that, because that is ultimately what marketing is and what it started as. And it is a value add for both the companies, the people who are trying to serve others with their product or service, and the people who need it.
Yeah.
So it was just very beautifully said. So, and we do live in a world of constant disruption. So there are a lot of reasons why that work is even more important right now.
Thanks. So I love what you said about, not everybody needs all these solutions. And, I think that's the part where, the more mature marketer, somebody who's really gone through this can understand, or who, at least who gets it, at any stage, that you want to be able to sell and provide something that's the right fit. So you don't want to oversell something. You want to, and that's the more credible salesperson too, right? Who, even will tell a company, actually, you don't need that next level. You're better off with this. Because if it's not the right fit, they're not going to renew. They're not going to be happy. It's not going to work. Or at some point they'll realize it, and then they'll go to a cheaper solution. And so there's an incentive, and there's more authenticity, I think, than ever, to find that right fit. And also to recognize not every buyer is ready today.
Right.
That's where marketing can come in with like this nurture campaign, staying top of mind. And I think the companies that get it right are adding value, more educational resources, interesting articles. I'm helping companies all the time with that. And like, it doesn't have to always be about you. In fact, it's better if it's not. Educate them about different aspects of the industry, provide interesting articles, and you'll stay top of mind just through the association. You don't have to just be selling. I love that saying that people don't want to be sold to, but they actually love to buy. Which makes sense. You just think about things that you've bought, and it feels good when you find that right solution. But none of us want to be like attacked when you walk into a store overloaded.
It's about agency and having, agency over my own choices. I don't want to be told I have to do something. Right? We automatically shut down when someone says you have to do this. Having kids and talking to kids is like the easiest example of this. You tell a kid they have to do something, and they're like, absolutely not. What are you talking to me for? Right? That's selling. But if the kid comes up, or if a person comes to the solution on their own, they have agency, and they're making that choice for themselves. And that is empowering. And that leads to better outcomes. It leads to, from a branding perspective, it leads to more customer loyalty. It leads to more referrals. It leads to all of those things when we give people the space and the agency to come to those conclusions on their own. So we can inform, and we can educate, and we can give them all the reasons why this might be the right solution for them.
Yeah.
Without telling them that this is what they need to do.
Yeah. And I think that's where having sales goals, and numbers that match, otherwise it drives the wrong behavior. It drives that oversell, and then it's not, long term, it's not going to help anybody anyhow. And so it's just having that achievable plan, I think sets up better for success. And, then you can get into cross sell, upsell, renewals, just customer advocacy and satisfaction, which is really important, playing the long game.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Okay, so we could get stuck in the
I
marketing.
know, we could just be here all
We
day.
could. So, but you teased it earlier, so I love it. So the work you do today to answer some of these challenges and opportunities that are in the marketing space, that are in because of all the disruption, because of all the options, because of all the different solutions out there. What does the world look like if companies and organizations understood what you were saying and approached the world in this way? What is your future vision for the world based on the work you do?
Yeah, no, I mean, big question, big ideas, which I love, because I think it kind of gets us out of our, our day to day and looking at the sales funnel today, right?
Yeah.
And just thinking bigger, reflective. So, when I was thinking about this, if you kind of look at where we came from, I was just thinking back, like, if we're thinking 25 years ahead, if you go back and look at 25 years ago, we were just starting in the early 2000s with the internet, switching over to mobile. 3G licenses were still being issued. We've come a long way in 25 years, right?
That's
just
wild.
mobility.
That's wild.
Yeah, mobility, e-commerce, just the whole apps that have taken off, then moving to cloud, security, right? I mean, it's just been phenomenal. And we're just only on the cusp now. We're just at the start of AI, let alone, crypto and some of the other areas as well. And so, just kind of thinking about where this is going, in marketing as sort of a driver, and you hit on it with like the work, right? So like just the form of work, they always talk about the future of work, but I think that's going to definitely continue to change. This idea about hybrid and remote, not all jobs have to fit into the same category. So I don't think it has to be return to office, like 100% in office for everyone or 100% remote, right? It's going to depend on the job, the company, the needs. Like the business and the market will drive what's needed there. And then the good thing is there's people that want to fit into all of the different categories. But the point is the opportunity is there to have more of this, hybrid, remote, distributed workforce. And along those same lines, I do think the entrepreneurial continuum as a career will continue because of the fact of the continued disruption, continued change. I think people want that more control over, their destiny, and being able to offer that to multiple companies. I don't think it's for everyone though. And what I always hear too with people I've helped set up their business is not everyone wants to be in that sales role. So I think it's also opening up the opportunity for more like umbrella companies that, let's say, bring in fractionals and then can offer that as a service. So, it's kind of cool to be part of that pioneering group. But I think that it'll be, well understood and well entrenched if we look into the future. So that's one thing, and that'll be across all industries, and that kind of changes the face of the type of work. But no matter what, I just think technology is going to be the biggest driver, AI, blockchain, just having quantum computing. So many of these that we're just at the start of. AI is so good for predictive because it's taking in large, just massive volume sets, and being able to give us predictive and be able to, augment what we're doing. And then in the future, even with AI agents are already starting to come in where it's even more autonomous. And then I think quantum computing will kind of pick up some of that. It's a little bit more narrow, but it kind of helps break some of the barriers in terms of, where computers kind of reach some of those thresholds. And so, in certain industries, like in healthcare and in finance, for example, we'll see that take off too. So, that's just kind of the start of it. But then, it opens up so many different opportunities in like healthcare and medicine, about where we're going with technology. I'm really excited about what that will mean because healthcare, for example, impacts all of us.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I love your optimism. You did start out by saying you were an optimist, so I love this. There are, but there's so much fear right now over the technology side of it, over AI and where that might lead. And we are just at the beginning of it all, right?
Mhm.
And so I love that you're smiling ear to ear and you're saying, oh, there's so much opportunity. Look, like, think of healthcare with AI, think of, these different industries and sectors with it. And so I think that's just very refreshing, because I do think as a tool, it's going to change how we navigate the world, and it's going to change what we're going to be able to provide people, which goes back to connecting people with solutions, right? Like, it changes how we can serve one another.
Mhm.
And
It
so I
does.
love that. Yeah.
Yeah, it does, and I love that saying. I mean, because you're right, there is so much fear, and I want to acknowledge that because I think something so disruptive and that has so much change. Yes, it will displace some jobs for sure, but I love that saying. And this is one I believe that your job may not be replaced by AI, but it will most likely be replaced by somebody working with AI.
Yeah.
And of course that doesn't apply to every single job, but the point is, it's here, it's a technology we're embracing. It'd be like saying you're not going to use a computer or you're not going to use
Right.
any form of phone or technology. It's going to become that ubiquitous.
Yeah.
But I get the fear because what it knows, what it learns. But again, that to me, that just opens up another area of opportunity. So it's like, oh, okay, so that's a job in terms of,
Yes.
how can we be more transparent about what's there? How was that model trained? There's specific functions within that, like on traceability, and not just, oh, we got this magic answer, right? And so that's already, even like the hallucinations that you see today, that's already being broken down. All of that's solvable, right? But what I like about where AI is going is that we're not waiting for some big reveal where corporations are going to work on this and then it'll be revealed. It's more like it's iterative, right? We're all a part of it. And then coming back to some of the benefits, you look at like healthcare. So I spent some number of years in life sciences. And if you look at what's possible is, it's already happening with more predictive models about being able to solve for disease, but then also looking at the therapeutics and reducing the amount of time it takes, to go through clinical trials because of being able to work with data, that much better. And then being able to reduce some of those cycle times, which obviously makes, all of the medicines available to patients sooner, cuts down on costs. I mean, it's just like a win all around. And then there's precision medicine. So AI is really good at that personalization. So how do we get into, pairing that with what we know about genetics and then being able to really discover and, I'm hoping that in 25 years, it's no longer an issue on, these major diseases like Alzheimer's or Parkinson's that are, brain related, let alone like heart and so, other areas. Just being able to really crack some of those codes. There's so much possibility. So that's why I'm bullish on it is, let's get involved. Energy is another massive area that impacts all of us, right? Like, couldn't we get actual renewables that make financial sense and are just like integrated with our society, and we're not having to make these trade-offs, and so there's so much opportunity with what the technology can provide to supplement, human thinking, human work, and just being able to look at what's possible.
Yeah, it's interesting because I'm going through in my head where you started with the future vision, and then this space here on what technology can do for us and how it will actually create more opportunities for new roles and jobs and work around that. I'm going, yeah, because you need marketers to tell the story of why we're doing these things, because there is fear. We need the tech people themselves, we need coders, we need like all of those different team members when we're bringing the technology and these new tools to the spaces and to the public. But even going further to what you said is this idea of, and I love this because I hadn't actually thought of it, but it completely makes sense. This idea of fractional employees growing even in that space, because when you think about how disruptive we already are with technology in companies, in our personal lives, and then how it's just going to keep growing and growing, is we are going to need more of those experts to be fluid and flow in and out of spaces in a fractional capacity to, to make companies and businesses more adaptable for the opportunities and possibilities that are out there. Which is very exciting to me. That's it's an interesting way where you can already see why and how that sector, or that idea of employee, the fractional employee, the fractional CEO, CMO, whatever title it is, CTO, more and more companies can't afford CTOs when you're small, but the world we're going into is going to need them. So I love that thought on the future of work, on why we're going to need those roles and people probably even more as disruption just keeps coming and coming with technology and opportunity.
Yeah, Jess, I love how you've characterized it there. I mean, this is what drives innovation too, is bringing ideas in from different industries. And, if you think about the fractional model, it's really accelerating, like you said, that flow in and out. So bringing these different ideas, and then, companies are getting a slice of that strategic work, but then, maybe they're outsourcing in other ways for, some of the more tactical. But the point is these partnerships, and not trying to go it alone, are taking hold even more, finding that expertise and bringing together a group of specialists, and that's just taking hold at all levels. Right. And so no longer is it just like Upwork, but it's, more like you said, a fractional CXO type work, and I think the other piece to it is, aren't we all, trying to look for either trying to get time back so that we can spend it, with family, with friends, leisure, maybe pursuing a different passion, or, just having like that quality of life, and I think that's a big driver of it too. I think we're always lulled into these ideas that, technology is going to save the day and it's going to, give us all this back, but only if we make time for it. And then we take the savings and the efficiency that we gained from it. So, that's also a really important part, which also comes down to the human side, right? Like, I'm just bullish there's always room for the human, and even more so in this digital, automated, tech-centric world. I think human authenticity, just what makes us human, is going to shine even more. It's like, I just say, let the bots have it. If it's, in terms of some of these mundane tasks and connecting, right? Have at it. And
I think you bring up a really good point. And it is something we have not been good at in our current system of capitalism and consumerism. And the point is, the goal for efficiency doesn't need to be more and more growth. The goal for efficiency can be to create space for us to be humans outside of our work, right? So if we're using this new technology, and if we're using these new tools, and we are getting more efficient, and we have been getting more efficient and more productive, looking back, we have, but we don't work less. We don't use it for us. It isn't built into the current system in a way that it can be. And I think there is a lot. I mean, that's a very important conversation as this technology gets used more and more, and we get more efficient, and we are able to, just in terms of data, how quickly AI can parse data. I mean, that takes humans weeks. And you still need humans to look over it, of course. You still need humans to help pull out the patterns and evaluate what comes out. There's still work there.
Definitely.
But there's a lot more time for those people to be living their life and not sitting in front of the data sets, right? And I think it's important to make room for both sides of that.
Yeah, exactly. And it's really a question of, how do you want to grow, whether professionally or your business. So I look at it, and this is part of the coaching I do in business advisory side, is, growth can be great, right? So do you want to grow top line where, you're growing revenue? Most companies want to grow profitably. So it's not just growing costs at the same rate, as growing top line. Otherwise you're just doing more, but you're really not, right? And so do you want to grow profitably? Do you want to grow market share? Do you want to grow, in terms of reputation in the industry? As a business owner or founder, do you want to have that more time? not everyone wants that, but it's just making a recognized choice about what it is, what those goals are. Because otherwise, the default is just like growth at all costs, right? And there's sort of this badge of honor that's kind of come into the culture about like, oh, people are so busy. And, people kind of brag about it like, oh, yeah, I'm so busy. And is that what you want, though? And so also just listen to what you're saying when somebody asks, oh, how are you? Is it like, oh, I'm so busy, or is it, oh, I'm really fulfilled, or oh, I've got this new client I'm really excited about, or oh, I took my kids here, or whatever it is, right? But just a little bit more on purpose, because the opportunity is there for any of those to be possible. And all I'm saying is let's reclaim some of what we were trying to be efficient about in the first place. And it's okay if it's growth, and it's okay if it's more profit, but just making a conscious choice on that versus if you really wanted time and didn't realize it got swallowed away. So many options.
And it is so important, and it's interesting. So I have a new book coming out in March, and it's on it's the Happy Leader Playbook, but it is on viewing leadership from that more holistic perspective, right? Because leadership does happen at work and in the business, and we have to define what you want as your goals there. But you can't define that without also knowing what your goals are outside of work and in life, right? So it's this holistic idea of you don't want to be sacrificing one for the other without doing so consciously, without making that decision. And I think that's a piece of business and leadership that we haven't intentionally paid, a lot of attention to. We haven't done it consciously. We just keep going in that state of busy. And so I love that you're saying, yes, you can choose to have these huge business goals, and growth can be one of them. Just if you're going to choose that, be aware that you are choosing that. Choose that knowing what that means in terms of everything. And if you're going to choose the other, it goes the same way, right? So
no, that's well said. And I'm excited for your book. I think it hits a really important area, like you said, around leadership and just being conscious that way. And when you're doing work you love, like we both are, it doesn't feel like work, and it is still work, but it's fulfilling, and it just brings about opportunity for others too, and that's what I find really fulfilling on it. That's also why I'm excited for the future as well.
Well, and I love you said, it comes down to showing up authentically, as a person, as a brand, all of those pieces. And when you are able to show up, as you and I are, and a lot of people are, when you are aligned and able to show up authentically, then the lines are all blurred between work and home anyway, because you're showing up as your true self at your fullest potential, right? So
completely. That's just it. And that's why I think too, this role for humans and being authentic, there's all these sweeping statements like, oh, AI is going to replace marketing. But if you think about, that's because some people think about marketing as connecting these tools and the tech stack. But if you think of like the essence, and that's just one function with marketing, is like, like you said, telling the story, connecting with people that are interested in buying. I mean, yes, it will take different formats. But so will every other function, right? Like no way in the future will accounts payable still, be fiddling around with invoices and, working out different structure, right? That's already being tackled. And so, you could take any function across, and of course it's going to change dramatically for the better because of, of what's possible with data and with the technology. But it's coming back to what is the essence, right? Like already sales and marketing is even more combined with like go to market and thinking about revenue generating. Those are exciting changes because it's no longer these original, let's say, departments that were set up, thinking about outcome based and what will this lead to? What is the data telling us? What adjustments do we need to make? And that's going to serve a role too in terms of where things are going, with the winning companies being more outcome based versus just like a lot of overhead. So it's another piece.
Well, and before we move on to the next question, I want to say what you just said there is, yes, AI will take over functions within your work. But if you know your why,
Mm-hmm.
what that outcome is, there's going to be a role for you, because yes, you might work in HR and you don't have to do as much paperwork now.
Yeah.
Is paperwork why you got into HR? Like, that's taking something off your plate that now you can show up and use your gift, probably more aligned to what that higher why is that you got into the work.
Exactly. One of the comments is that now people can get back to the roles they were actually hired to do.
Yeah.
And because how many people are going to describe like they're moving data from one application to another, or they're sifting through, or they're, taking things
Yeah.
offline into spreadsheets to, to clean the data, right?
Yeah.
So I'm not saying it's all going to be perfect in the future, but it'll definitely be a lot more streamlined. And we're seeing AI being integrated into enterprise platforms. So it's just being able to use some of that. I don't think in marketing in the future we'll have to do as much stitching together these massive, marketing tech stacks, because I think it'll be more integrated. We'll be more users of it, and then adding that human value of, again, who's ever connecting best with the market, adding the most value, solving problems, and being more empathetic to really resonate.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll be the winner.
I love that, because that's that is our gift as humanity,
Yeah.
right? Is the empathy, is the creativity, is like AI can't do those things. And so it's allowing, or it could allow us to more fully embrace our humanity in the work we do, whatever that looks like.
Yeah, exactly.
So, okay, so we're here. We're in 2025. You just shared this idea of what the future can look like. What is that roadmap how do we get from today to the future?
Yeah, and that's I love that question, because that's so important and fundamental in businesses. If you're here and you want to be over here, what do you need to do to get there? And that's the essence of the type of work I do in marketing, is helping companies map that out. When it comes to thinking about, our futures in 25 years from now, one of the main things is to get familiar with technology. It doesn't mean you have to be an IT expert or use every app, but just don't fear it or ignore it. Again, I come back to, imagine not using a computer or using a phone. And I'm sure there'll be some people that won't, but why not, right? This is so integral to our society. So like, get familiar, just try it, try ChatGPT or, Perplexity or Claude. Just, try it, because I think once you start using it and getting familiar with what's possible, that takes away, a lot of issues. And then this idea of being a lifelong learner. So, reading, whether it's podcast, watching podcasts, TED Talks, reading articles, books. Just really understanding different angles, and being plugged in that way. I think that's one of the best ways that people can stay fresh. And I would put financially savvy in the same category as like being technology savvy too. It's like, don't just leave that to finance. Know your numbers, regardless what team you're part of. And especially if you've got your own business, like really understand the numbers, what you need to hit. And, just so you're understanding the goals, but just also what are the right metrics to follow, and not just relying on your accountant or someone else to go handle that. So just again, and we're also seeing the opposite. We're seeing finance and IT professionals learning more about the business. I get that all the time. Them wanting to, well, how do I become more business savvy? I love that. So I love that people are trying to understand more, be a little bit more holistic. And then like a growth mindset to me is opposite of fixed mindset. So you understand that things can change and that you're open to those, and all of these things like learning and being aware, trying different things will help build on that. But taking on board feedback and being able to change, improve, and get better is all part of that very positive, growth mindset. So I see that as another key component to the roadmap. And then finally, just being passionate about what you do. Like you said, finding your why. It doesn't mean you have to follow your passion, maybe becoming passionate about what you're doing, but at least uncovering what is it that makes you happy? What is it that makes you tick? And that, you're bringing in elements of those. For some people, it is their work, and that's what makes them tick. Others, it's, they're somewhat passionate about their work, but they're funding and fueling, other hobbies or other passions they have. And either model is fine. But the point is just having some self-reflection to understand, where do you contribute? Where can you add value? and then, going after that. So as you're thinking about the next 25 years and, whether it's for your business or yourself, I would say those are some of the really core elements to setting yourself up for success.
I love it. I love it so much because you just touched on like 5 of the 8 pillars of happiness, which is what I
Ooh.
tell people all that you have to
Uh-huh.
understand um, how to create
Mm.
happiness in your life. And that means designing a life around your success, right? But
Yeah.
my favorite pillar of happiness, which I think is 3 of the 5 things you just put in your roadblock, is curiosity.
Yeah. Well
Because,
said.
because we as humans are able, we have a brain unlike any other brain of any living creature on earth. We
Mhm.
have this ability to be curious and learn and process and take in different experiences and give them meaning.
Right.
And stepping into that part of our humanity, which doesn't come naturally to everyone, but really, when you are curious, you there's no space for you to be judgmental. Curiosity, is an antidote to fear.
It
So
really is.
instead of fearing all the change and the disruption and the new technology, if we get curious about it, and allow ourselves to stay open to it, it isn't this big scary thing, but you begin to see the opportunities around it. And then tying that to your why and your purpose, like you mentioned, I tell people get really hung up on purpose because they think it has to be this huge lofty thing.
Right.
And it's
Yeah.
like, I tell people my purpose, what I see my purpose as is my purpose is to add a little happiness into the world each day.
Mm-hmm. I love that.
And some days that's, playing with my kids and that's what it is. And, most days it is in my work and how I get to show up and help leaders and organizations. But when you think of your purpose or your why in that way, even a job that you might not like 85% of what you do, if your purpose is to help people and there's a part of your job that allows you to help people, just focusing your energy and passion there, which is what you're talking about, allows you to create more energy and momentum and allows you to serve and use your gifts in those ways. So I love that is your roadmap. That is my roadmap to everything, is the 8 pillars of
Mm.
happiness. And I love that coming from the business world, the marketing world, that all still very much applies because that's what we need as humans, right?
Yeah, it really does. Like you said, just having these pillars, really like your North Star, your compass on where you're going. And I want to pick up on a point you raised about, because I meet people like this too, that, they're maybe not happy in their role and they think, well, should I switch roles? But it's like, are they learning something? Is the person learning something in that role that's going to help them? And that's okay to be like aware that maybe that's not the end game, right?
Right.
And maybe it is time to move, but also understanding like what purpose is that serving. So for example, somebody that, let's say, they're in one function, but maybe they've done a rotation in order to get some experience, almost like cross training.
Right.
So
Right.
then they recognize that, yeah, that's not the end game. They're coming back into it. So there's all sorts of examples like that. But, the point is to realize, like, where are you going? And is your current step helping you get there? And are you growing?
Yes.
Whatever growth looks like for you. So I think that's really important to just take stock and have that self-reflection just
Yeah.
to see the path that you're on.
Well, and it ties back beautifully, and then we'll wrap up with our what can people do today. But it ties back beautifully to the idea that you said at the beginning about businesses, and I work with leaders around the same thing. Is you have to take the time to first define what success is
Yeah.
before you
Mhm.
can build your roadmap or take the steps to actually get there. And that happens from a business perspective, from a marketing perspective, from a life perspective,
Yeah.
from a leadership, a parent, like every single person in their roles needs to take the time to define what success actually looks like for them in that role,
Yeah.
because it's different for everyone in every company.
Yeah. I completely agree.
Okay, so before we wrap up our time together today, this was such a great conversation. I'm going to be honest, I didn't know where it was going to go, and I love where it went. So thank you for that. You took it very big picture. I love all the talk of technology and what that can be for us in the future. What is one thing our listeners can do today to get us a step closer to that future vision and that world?
Yeah, thanks, Justin. I also really enjoyed the conversation. I just think it's, it's so important to paint a picture of where you're going, think about it, step into that future. So it's really a two-part answer. So the first thing is be human, be authentic. It's like I said, let the bots do what they're going to do, but look at the human side of it. Mentor someone, help them, and then be mentored. Look at where do you need help, and what can you do? I think also pushing back a little and understanding your boundaries, because you can't do everything. As optimistic as we all want to be, it doesn't mean saying yes to everything, but just being clear on that. So that's all part of being human, and really that enjoying life, right? Like take a breath and like enjoy and recognize how far you've come. So that's the first part, is that being human. What's going to help that is don't try to go it alone. So, I work with a lot of companies, and a lot of them are giving a similar message about why others should buy their service. And it's like, partner up with us for the expertise, right? It's not always about another set of hands. That's part of it, but it's also like the expertise that can help accelerate. So whether it's, getting your business set up, or whether it's with the marketing plan, I've tried to help companies to be self-sufficient. So it's like, they're going to bring me in fractional to help with a certain part. You might bring someone in from a finance perspective, but don't try to go it alone. There's so many experts out there, and you can vet them, and they can be an extension to your team. So that's another way to get out from under, create some time, create some happiness, but also create business success. I mean, like the whole coaching program that I provide is all based on that. It's like growing profitably, but also so you can create the life that you love, a life that you love, getting, back whatever that is for you, whether it's money, time, relationships, just use technology, but also use, the idea that you can partner easier now than ever. So that's my two-part answer, is be authentic and human, and then don't go it alone, work with other humans.
Well, it's a great answer. It is a great answer, because be human is like step one for all of us, right? Remember, we are human. And the step two, which is just really an extension of it, is humans are social beings, and we do better and move quicker and have more impact when we collaborate and work together, which is, kind of goes against the Western culture mindset of success is individual. It is, but also you will have more impact and more success if you team up with people who have gifts that you don't, who have strengths that you don't, who can get you somewhere faster because you don't have to learn it and do it all on your own. I read a book recently. I'm not going to remember the book because I read too many books, but I loved this line, and you just set it up perfectly on the be human thing. And so they said, the purpose of life, the meaning of life, is to live it.
Oh, I
And
love
I
it.
was like, oh, isn't that the truth? Like, but being able to take that into your work, into your business, into your day each day, honestly, for me, that lightens me a lot, because it says, be here in it, live it the way that's meaningful to me. Let me serve others in an authentic way. Let me connect, let me collaborate. That's all living life, because that's how we human.
It's so true. And we need each other. Like, none of us are doing this on our own. None of us. I mean, we all have that help and, and guidance. And I just think that's so important to, think about that, and not just try to, plow through the day, but just, quality over quantity, less is more. And just like you said, impact. It's really all about, impact, and whatever that looks like, for each of us.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you so much for coming and sharing your light and your gift and all your wisdom and your vision with our listeners today. It has been a joy talking to you. I could talk to you for another hour, but and maybe we will some other time. But thank you for being here on the show today.
Oh, and Jess, thank you so much for having me. And thank you for the work that you do. I just think we all need a little bit more happiness and just thinking about, that self-reflection. So I really appreciate you and your work. And thanks for having me.
Well, thank you.